What is up, guys? Welcome to a new episode of High Altitude Motorsports. Today we just had our customer Daniel Dirksen with Dirksen Concrete and Fencing drop off his brand new 2021 Ram Limited crew cab long bed with a 6.7 liter Cummins turbo diesel, and we are about to commence a very cool build. We're doing a 10 to 12 inch Kelderman lift kit, powder coated on 30 by 16 American Force wheels and a 42 inch Fury tire. So we're gonna do a little walk around of the truck bone stock and then start tearing into it. Alright guys, so we just pulled the bed off. As you can see, you gotta leave it to the trained professionals. You know, we do what we have to do to get the bed off. We got our fork extenders, we got the microfibers, and we got them setting on some tires. So that's pretty much, you know, how to do it. We did it safely, no problems. Also taped up the cab ends, that way there's nothing getting hurt in the process. So yeah, basically, I'm pretty sure I've already filmed an intro, but we're doing a 10 to 12 Kelderman air ride suspension, putting 30 inch American Force wheels on it, and a set of 42 inch Fury tires. The reason you have to take the bed off, there's a lot of things that you have to unbolt. So it is a requirement to take the bed off. You have some of these bolts that have to get taken out. You're putting bolts through here. You're sandwiching plates through the whole frame. So there is quite a bit of work as far as that, that you just have to take the bed off. It makes it way easier, and you know, you pretty much have to. We're also got our whole air management system that goes in the back. That's actually what I'm gonna probably start working on today, just because, you know, most people build the kit, then do that. It's kind of one of my least favorite things, for being honest. So I like to get that out of the way first. That way, you know, when we take it to Mo for him to wire, everything's good to go and I don't have to worry about it. So now that this bed's off, we can start getting everything modified. We pretty much just have to remove our old spare tire plate and everything. So we cut all this off, grind it up, paint it up, put our plates on, weld everything into place, and then we're good to go. So I'm gonna start with that right after a little bit of lunch. Alrighty guys, so as you saw, we started doing a little bit of grinding, cutting. This is kind of where we're at right now. So we cut out everything and we started grinding. I got just a little tack on this and kind of mocked up. And this is like the worst filling. If any of you guys are welders, you'll know my pain. As we're getting set up, we get the first thing in. The welder kind of did a little goofy thing. You can see that tack isn't bad, but not the best. Get the welder, get it like all rolled out here, get everything done, get the batteries disconnected on the truck, and guess what? That's a problem. We ran out of fucking wire. Excuse my language. But we ran out of wire, which means that, and it's way past their closing, so unfortunately, I have to catch you guys in the morning when we get some welding wire, and then I'm gonna go down there and get excited because there's all kinds of cool welding stuff. Spend a bunch of money that I don't need on stuff. It doesn't matter, but whatever. It is what it is. So we're gonna go down there in the morning, first thing, get some things, and yeah, we'll just start filming tomorrow. guys, so we got the brackets all painted up, and we're actually just put our first coat down. We're gonna get a paint that's like more of a satin matte color that matches the frame. This is kind of a flat black, but everything's in, welded, looks great, and we're gonna start laying out all of our parts. This kit takes an absurd amount of parts. So we're gonna lay these out on a blanket, and we'll show you guys how many parts there are. There's a lot, so time to start getting to work. All right, guys, so we just got the truck racked up. And for this kit, we have to drop the fuel tank and do some welding and things like that. So we're gonna start by getting probably the rear drive shaft out and getting the tank undone. It looks like there is, yeah, probably not a very easy way to get the fuel tank strap out with the carrier bearing in the way. But we gotta drop the carrier bearing anyways to put in some spacers once we lift it. This is kind of a problem that you'll have on mega cabs or crew cab long beds. So we'll do that and get this tank down and go from there. All right, guys, back to the shop vlog. I figured I wanted to put this on the vlog because this is just a crazy train horn setup. Check this out. What are these, the KL5s?
KL5LAs.
KL5LAs from Horn Blasters. We got a 5-gallon tank and this Horn Blasters mount from Wicked Customs and these two big ass Viair compressors. So needless to say, we're gonna throw this in the vlog and show you guys this insane horn setup. If you guys are interested in doing this, I would highly recommend this kit for hauling or just, you know, you gotta blow your horns, not your temper, is what Horn Blaster says. So we're gonna get this install going and throw it on the V-Lock.
That air hole. Can't get this right past the air hole.
All right, guys, so this Wicked kit's really cool. There's a factory hole on this side. You drill it out 11/16, put this rib nut in, sink that rib nut out. We loosen all the hitch bolts. I don't actually think you need to, but we just did, just to get enough clearance. And essentially what it's bolting to is sandwiching between the hitch, the frame, in basically right here. Obviously kind of hard to see. There we go, that's better lighting. So these back plates, so really simple install for the most part. It's just getting everything set up and whatnot. So we got the horns getting mounted to the bracket, put those on, tighten it up, and go from there.
Well, no, because the horns wouldn't have hung low enough to...
Well, they'd have to build like how this compressor bracket is.
Yeah, they have to build an extension.
They built a bracket like that. All right, guys, so we got this in. Really wasn't too bad, and it's looking actually really cool. Alrighty, guys, so we just wired and plumbed the entire system. It really was a lot of work. It's just not as hard because you don't have to fabricate anything, and it makes it easy that it's all right there. So check it out. And we kept everything pretty OEM. So there's an OEM ground that's kind of up tucked in here that we used, which is just clean. And then we got the pressure switch for the horns mounted right there. And just look at the girth nation of this horn setup. What is this? That's pretty quiet. Oh my gosh. Good morning, everybody. It is a new day here. We started doing a little more work on Daniel's truck. So as you guys saw in the last clips, we got the fuel tank dropped. And like I said before, this is gonna give us the access we need to be doing some welding and bracketry for the 4-link system. But off camera, I ended up tearing the whole front end apart. You guys have seen me tear these trucks apart a billion times. So the teardown process, not really something that I wanted to film. It's boring and repetitive. So essentially, all that we really did, take the radius arms out, take the steering out, take the track bar out, and take the coils out and take the shock out. And this is kind of what we're left with. And now that we have this kind of done, now I can start mounting our lower bag brackets, upper bag brackets, our track bar bracket, and whatever other brackets that I have that go on this axle assembly. Once I'm finished with that, our radius arm bracket, that kind of is our transfer case clocking and everything bracket, is actually at powder coat, getting re-powder coated. So unfortunately there's not a whole lot I can do as far as that, but I'll get this all completed and we'll do on camera, kind of going through. It's going to be very similar to Ryan Jensen's build, just, you know, pretty much the same brackets, they're just different heights and then a different bag, I believe. So we'll get that in and kind of go from there, but should be pretty simple. So we'll start bolting these parts on and kind of walking you through the process. So we just put our essentially our Kelderman upper bag bracket in and marked our holes. So on this side we're doing 3 into the frame and then 2 on top. These holes are going to get tapped out to a 3/8 by 24 tap. So you want to really make sure that you measure these properly and know exactly where they're going to go. That way this bag bracket fits perfectly. So now that we've tapped these out, we've drilled both of these holes on both sides. Now we can go ahead, get our hardware and install our upper bag mounts. All right guys, so check it out. We've got both of the upper brackets in on each side. These went in pretty smoothly, and then we ended up raising the truck a little bit higher, stretching out. The brake lines actually have quite a bit of play, which is good. So now that we've gotten this done, there's some modifications that have to be done to the frame for the track bar, panhard bar drop bracket. So we have to do some sanding on the factory frame and then our powder coated piece just to weld in these brackets. So we will kind of walk you through that, just do like a really good cleanup and then get like a really good, nice penetrating weld to hold these, hold this bracket up. A lot of the older Dodges would crack the frame, so this new bracket is insanely engineered. So we'll see how well this goes and go from there. So we decided we're not going to put the track bar bracket in just yet. Well, we are, but we're waiting on a couple things. Got this sanded down, and now we decided to go higher with the truck. We're gonna start working on getting the T-case out so we can clock it. Our Crossmember is currently at powder coat, so we're gonna clock it and temporarily set this Crossmember back in. The way that we're doing this is just taking all these nuts out, and we'll probably leave one in, take this whole Crossmember out, lower it, pull it out, and then hopefully she just slides right out. We don't have to take this def tank contraption out. So we'll get this done and hopefully it goes smoothly. As you saw, we got the T-case out. Those things are just kind of a pain in the ass, and there's no real good way of getting it out just besides doing it by hand. So we He-manned it out. Now what we're doing is we are taking the factory studs out of the T-case, Once we get the factory studs out, we're going to put a clocking ring in, torque that all up. After that's in, on the ASN transmissions, there is a shaft extender with a new seal. So that's going to be an interesting piece to put in that I'm not honestly looking forward to. So we'll get that done, get the T-case back in, put the crossmember back on, and move on to our next thing. All right, guys, so we just got our pitman arm and sway bar drop bracket. This is a pretty intense situation going on here. So you have your drop pitman arm, which has these two welded on gussets, super strong. And then it also has this, the pitman arm nut also has a shaft on it that's going to tie in with our sway bar drop bracket, and then our sway bar drop bracket has a brace. I'm not 100% sure. We gotta kind of mock some things up and figure out exactly where everything goes, but it looks like there's also a brace that bolts here and then possibly goes to the frame, so really keeping all of this structurally intact. And like I said, we got our track bar drop bracket in, and we got it welded up really nicely and painted it the welded part, the factory color. So that's all looking good. We're gonna start getting this tightened and get kind of all of our braces and brackets figured out on here. So the one thing Kelderman did is made sure that this steering is not going to cause any problems with the frame or twisting anything. So check this out. So we got this sway bar drop bracket, and then it's tied in to the other side, so you're getting both sides of the frame. Then it has these two brackets that hold this another bracket with a pitman arm like bearing essentially. It is greasable, and this is kind of holding the pitman arm. And then we just found out how this other bracket goes. So you have this bracket coming off, and it bolts to another bracket that actually bolts to the two bolts on the top of the gearbox. So we're gonna get this bracket in, and I don't think this steering is ever gonna have a problem moving or anything like that. So this is the bracket, and it uses the two factory gearbox brackets and then two bolts. So we'll throw this up and go on and go. Alrighty guys, so as you saw, we figured out this pitman arm brace duappy, and it goes in, well, it's not focusing, but you can kind of see it in, and this whole contraption right here, it's pretty ridiculous, but it's definitely good to have all this support. So that's all in, track bars in, upper back mounts are in, and we just drilled and tapped the holes. So you got a 3/8 by 24 tapped hole there, and then a 1/2 by 20 hole tapped right there. This is what's going to hold the lower bag mounts in. And on the other side, you have a bolt that's going to go through here. And right now, some of the pieces that we need are still at powder coat. So that's about all we can do as far as that goes. We are going to move on to our sensor arms. These get welded to the frame like so, 2.5 inches from the body mount right here. And there's a lot of adjustment, so you don't have to be extremely accurate, but you kind of want to get them the same left to right as far as sides goes. So we'll probably get these welded in and maybe put the T-case back up for now. Not really sure. And we also could do the brake line. So until we get some more powder coat, it'll still be in the same video of us getting this truck done. But for today, that might be about it. And just like that, it is the next day, guys. So as you saw, we got some things done in the front, and we also got the leaf springs out from the rear. And there's not a whole lot to be done. It's actually 1 o'clock today, and we've kind of done a couple things. They're kind of boring and tedious little jobs, so didn't really film it. But I ran the front air lines and the front sensor wires. So what it looks like is we have our front air line going up, and as you can see, you know, this is the high altitude difference right here. Got some nice protective aluminum heat wrap on it, going through the coil pocket and then coming down. We have a little bit of extra length zip tied, and as you saw yesterday, we mounted our sensors, the brackets, welded them to the frame. So now the sensor's in, it's loose right now, and then it's connected and then running down to that wire. And we ran them, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but they're ran and zip tied up to the factory wiring harness. So it makes it a really clean install. That way it's all ran with the factory and you really honestly wouldn't notice that it was there. So that's just a little detail, you know, take your time, make sure that everything's wired and looking really good. There's really not a whole lot left that we've really done, just kind of doing that. I'm also making a custom fabricated train horn mount. So this is the Kelderman air tank management. So I'll put this in because this is actually going to be a fun little project. I'm going to build a template, put it in the computer, have it cut and then press broken. Essentially, it's going to be a plate that bends up into bolting into these two brackets, and it will be a plate that comes down and then up and then bolts into these brackets. So it will be a really clean install on that for a train horn. It will sit a little bit lower than normal, but it will look really, really clean and really, really good. So we'll do that. Get the measurements and everything for that today. We'll put that on film. I also need to mount our train horn switch, so our pressure switch that releases the air to honk the horns. And we also built as many of the 4-link bars or track bar or trailing arms as we could. So this is kind of what it looks like. We got our sway bar end links, our rear track bar, panhard bar. These are our front trailing arms, 2 of our rear trailing arms, and our rear sway bar end links. So all that is now built, and we have one of the trailing arms for the rear here, and then the other ones at powder coat along with our front track bar. So really getting held up with powder coat now because there's a lot of parts that are there that we need to pretty much move anywhere further forward. We are going to probably get the T-case in at some point. The T-case is currently, or the seal for the T-case, it should be here today from what they're saying. So as long as that shows up, we'll be able to get the T-case back in, torque all those bolts, and probably that's about it. We're just waiting on all this powder coat is really holding us up. So I think I might get the hitch in and potentially the dual steering stabilizer brackets in, and there's really not a whole lot. Probably get the brake lines in today and some other stuff, which in all reality, it is kind of nice getting all the little trinkets done and riffraff, as I call it, finished. That way, once we have the actual lift installed, the lift part goes pretty quick. It's all the little tedious details that take the longest amount of time. So getting all this done is definitely nice to have completed. So we'll just keep working. I'll film as much as I can, but it is kind of more of a boring day with just a little tedious stuff. So fill you guys in, get a little action and some work done. So yeah. Alright guys, so it's been about a week since we were filming, but it is always a good day when it is delivery day. That is correct. We have now got our 30 by 16 wheels. This comes up to like almost my hip. That's how big it is. probably not picking up on camera. We got 42 1650 30-inch tires and the rest of our parts to build this truck. So we're gonna just go on and go and start building this thing. What do you think about that? Very excited. All right. So I think what we're gonna do is the front is pretty much almost done. So we might as well just finish it. So let's get right into it. All right guys, so as you can see, this wheel is unbelievably huge. We're gonna show you how we mount it here. This is like a very expensive set of wheels and tires, so you wanna protect your investment and use a tire machine that can handle these kind of wheels. So get a tire over here and we'll show you guys exactly how this all goes down. First step, we're gonna get this thing lubed up. Bury the fence. Oh, sorry. Thank God for plastic. As you can see, we got plastic, 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 plastic. No pry bars. We're gonna click this button right here, and this thing's just gonna slide on. Just like that, done. We started getting all this stuff bolted and torqued down. So now pretty much our lower assemblies are all torqued. Our upper assemblies, all this stuff is torqued. So really close in the front end. The only thing we really have left is the sway bar and then hook it up to our end links. We have our drag link, our track bar, and then our trailing arms and our big center cross member. So pretty good progress so far. We're actually gonna move on to the rear. It is the weekend, and we're gonna get a little bit of work done today. And I brought my doggy, Mrs. Reagan Ray. Hi. So, she's over here motivating me, and now it's time to get some work done. I already have test fitted the driver's side, so I'll be putting in the passenger side. So essentially you have these frame plate brackets and they go through the factory hitch. And if you don't have a factory hitch, then they provide basically a sleeve that goes into these pockets. So we have the bolts that go through here. These are just kind of temporarily in there. I'm just seeing which bolts are what. One's for the shocks, one's for the sway bar. And the only thing that I need to figure out is what goes on with the sensor. I'm not 100% sure. I think we're supposed to have brackets, so I'm gonna have to figure that out. Not that big of a deal. And then on the inside of the frame, you have kind of these plates that sandwich the frame in. And then since this side's not in, you can kind of see you have this crush sleeve that kind of just goes through the frame and then goes through the other side. So that's kind of what it looks like. And so yeah, really pretty straightforward. We're just kind of I laid out the bolts and kind of been figuring out which bolts go where. Once we get these upper plates in, I'll probably just snug them down for now. And then once they're snug, we'll start working on getting our whole axle assembly done. Once we get that done, we'll probably bolt in our upper trailing arm and our track bar. And then we're gonna use essentially the template and weld on this piece to the frame that holds our lower trailing arm in. So definitely some work to be done. We'll see how far we get today, and yeah. Alrighty guys, so we have these plates just kind of started right now. Just kind of figuring that part out. And then I found out that there's 4 total sleeves. This one's easy to access. So there's these 2 that go through the front, and then there's ones that go through the back for the shock bolt. So make sure that you get those in so you don't crush your frame. So for right now, I'm just gonna figure out where all the rest of the bolts are and kind of basically get all the bolts figured out. Once I do that, then I'll probably snug everything up and go from there. Alrighty guys, so as you saw, we got both frame plates in. We got this cool little bracket and our sensor bracket on both sides now. Looking really good. This is all just snugged up. We're gonna torque this here in a little bit once we get our shocks in and our sway bar end links in. But for now, we also got our everything that bolts to our axle all in placed. You want to do this all loose because all 3 pieces tie into each other. So for alignment purposes, it's best just to leave it all loose and then get it all on after. So we're gonna go ahead, tighten all these, torque them all up, and then get our upper bag bracket track bar mount in, which is this big beast over here. And once we get that in, then we're gonna start figuring out our 4-link bars. One goes obviously from here to the factory leaf spring pocket. And then we have another one that goes from here, and then we have to weld on a bracket to the frame. So we're gonna get that figured out, and hopefully it's not too bad. All right guys, you can hate me, but we tried putting that upper bag bracket in. It didn't fit. And then off camera, we were just trying to figure out what we needed to do, and we got it to fit. So we got this in, just got the bolts started. We're gonna go through, torque them all up. So we got these 1/2-inch bolts up top, got some 3/8 bolts coming from the bottom, and then the 2 factory bump stop bolts. And that's our whole upper bracket, panhard bar bracket. So now we're almost finished with the rear. The only thing that is going to hold us up, well, not hold us up, but be a challenge, is welding in this bracket. Hopefully she goes in no problem and we get that done. So that's going to be our next task here in a little bit. Alrighty guys, so as you saw in that last clip, we were doing a little bit of welding. We had to weld on the lower trailing arm frame brackets. So as you can see, these are in, welded, looking really good. And then we had to, since they were powder coated, we ended up doing a little bit of paint and then just keeping a little bit of color just on the front portion of it. That didn't get ruined with all the heat from welding. Made sure that these are welded in really good. We got both sides on, looking good, painted. Probably do a couple more coats on that as well. And then other than that, once those are dry, we'll put the lower trailing arms in the rear, and then essentially the rear is pretty much finished. We've torqued every single solitary bolt on the entire thing. So realistically, the only thing that's gonna be left is getting the lower trailing arm in, setting it on the ground, adjusting both of these, and then also adjusting our panhard bar and putting our rear diff cover on and brake lines. So really good progress. And now we have all of the parts for the front, and we're gonna start getting the this cross member in. It goes into the frame, comes up, and then you have like a little bung you weld to the frame and possibly a couple other tabs. So we're gonna try to get that figured out. It's super heavy. This is probably like the heaviest piece of the whole build. So we'll get that in and figure out what we need to do. Alrighty guys, so we had to take this cross member up and down about 10 times. So we didn't really film that process because it's kind of boring. So what we've done here is there's this bracket that sits right here, and we've done a weld and then basically a spot weld on this bracket in the back. And then we also have a bung welded in, kind of tucked into this area. Really can't see, but if you're looking at this plate, it says top bolt right here. So we welded a bung for that. This goes through this little bracket that we welded up, and then this goes through the factory radius arm bolt. And then this is kind of what that side looks like. So nothing too crazy. And then it goes obviously through the factory. And then you have this little bracket that comes up to hold this wiring harness in. So that's kind of the transmission cross member. Like I said, we took that in and out a bunch of times, just making sure that when we welded, everything was going to fit perfectly. As far as the rear, you pretty much already saw us finish that. You saw us weld these. We painted them. We left this little part powder coated, and then we installed our lower arms. Pretty simple, self-explanatory. We got our sensor arm hooked up, and then we started running all of our air lines. So there's obviously some temporary stuff. This will go to our train horns with our plate that sits down here. And then I'll show you, we did a really clean setup on this whole wiring harness. So it's all pretty factory looking. Looks really good. So that's all we've really done. A bunch of slow stuff, nothing too exciting. But now that we've gotten that cross member in finally and it's done, now we can get our basically our front kit 100% complete. So you've already seen us do all this work. Now it's just a matter of hooking these 4-link bars to the factory radius arm slots. So hopefully this goes pretty well. We'll probably end up going down with the lift to make sure those bars are easier to get to. And then we're gonna tighten all these up right now, get them tight and torqued, and then lower it down, get the 4-link bars in, get the bags set, and then pretty much just tighten everything from there. So pretty much in the last final stages. So put you guys on a time lapse. What is up, guys? It is Saturday morning here, and we have gotten a little bit more work done on the truck. It's kind of boring stuff that you've already seen, so I didn't really film it because there's really no point. So we got the bed back on it, we got the rear bumper on it, we got the wheel liner on, kind of. I need to put all the bolts in and whatnot. But yeah, so that's one less thing to worry about. Also have some drive shaft issues. The front drive shaft that Kelderman sent us does not fit. Also, it's a 2-piece rear drive shaft, and that doesn't fit, and there's no carrier bearing drop. So I'm probably gonna have to get 2 new shafts built custom for this truck. Not the end of the world though. We'll lower it all down and make the rear drive shaft work just to get it to Mo so he can wire everything. Then you saw in the last clip, we got the front trailing arms in. Pretty simple and straightforward, and also the shocks. So these go in. They went in no problem. We got them all torqued up. Got this bracket in, welded that, and then it goes up. And then we have our coil or reservoir mount up at the top. So that all looks really good. So really just some really small minor details that are left on this truck. I'll show you just to get it to Mo's. This is kind of what we have to do. So rear fender liners, we got to mount some more rock lights, track bar, drag link, brake lines, bleed the brakes, and tighten the lower bag bolts in the front. Excuse me. So getting pretty close. We're still waiting on a couple brackets from Kelderman, but these ones, we're not really going to drive the truck very far. We might actually just put it on my trailer and haul it over there. It's only like a 10-minute drive. Anyways, so we'll get the steering hooked up, and I think after that we'll get the temporary fittings put in the bags so we can get air in the bags, and do a couple more things. We'll hook the brake lines up in the front and the rear, and possibly, well, I guess we won't set it down until we bleed the brakes. Oh yeah, mounting the rock lights. So steering, mount the rock lights, mount the brake lines, and then we'll call it a day. Bleed the brakes tomorrow, and yeah, that's about it. I mean, we're really, really close, so that's good. Once it goes to Mo's, he does all our wiring. We've already pre-wired basically everything, so it should be relatively simple for him just to get it all buttoned up. Once it's wired, then we can come here, we can set our sensor, like our ride height, get our sensor arm links put in, everything figured out on that end, set the ride height, and then start adjusting and doing all of our alignments. And then once that's done, we can tighten up a couple more things, get the dual steering stabilizer bracket put on, and whatever other miscellaneous things that we have left. But as you can see, it looks like a truck again, and we're in the final stages, so very, very happy with the progress. So I'll put you guys up on a tripod and start the time lapse. Alrighty guys, so I've left you hanging on a little bit of things. It's just kind of a slow process and a boring process with all the little tedious things, but we're getting pretty close to the final result of the truck. We had to get a one-piece drive shaft made. We did do aluminum, and it's going to be getting polished, so I figured I'd throw you guys on a time lapse and have my boy Philip Frank at Frank's Polishing and Detailing polish this shaft out to a mirror shine, look really good. Probably won't pick up too much on camera, but we'll put it on the vlog with the time lapse. We just did the calibration and got this truck sitting at a perfect ride height right now. So yeah, it's kind of another boring thing, but you essentially just use the controller. I'll show you guys what it looks like so you guys can see. But you use this controller and essentially you calibrate it to go up and down. And once it's calibrated up and down, then you can set kind of the settings to have fun with. So we've done the ride height. Now that we've done the ride height, we're just getting some of the things done off the list. All right guys, so we got our customer here. He has no idea what the truck looks like. He did see a sneak peek of it pulling in, but we're gonna reveal it to him for the first time and get his reaction. How tall are you?
6'4".
6'4"?
Goodness gracious. God, right? Jesus. It's fucking huge.
Alright guys, so as you saw in this the last clip, we have completed the 2021 Ram 3500. So a little bit of walkthrough of everything that we've done. So we powder coated this kit. It's kind of a mix of colors. So we did a base coat of Kingsburg gray with a lollipop blue on top and then clear coated. We did the 10 to 12 Kelderman air ride lift. We powder coated the front and rear diff covers. And that's kind of like the basis so far this is kind of like stage one. So we did all that, and then we did these massive 30 by 16 American Force wheels wrapped in a 42 1650 30 Fury tire, and these just look amazing. We also did the floating caps, true spike lug nuts. I mean, there's literally nothing that's like this setup out from any other wheel company. You come back through the rear. As you guys saw, we got the rear drive shaft polished, and it's looking really nice. And I mean, for the most part, it's pretty straightforward as far as the lift. We have it sitting probably about 13 inches just to clear the 42s. If you guys are curious, you do need to run a bumper spacer on these new trucks if you're running this kit with a 42, because it's really close to the front bumper. And then, I mean, yeah, pretty much, like I said, not a whole lot. We went with the Kelderman Raptor shocks. So these are tuned front to rear, left to right, and gives it a really good ride quality. And then to top things off, we did the, I don't remember exactly the kit, but it's like the Horn Blasters real train horn kit, and we'll demonstrate that. And to finish things off, we had Colorado Car Audio do a, it's not really a sound system, but we did a Mobile Toys sub box with 213s in the rear for a little more bass. And then we did the jail audio, I forget exactly the number, but we did the marine boat speakers in the back, and I will demonstrate the train horns and the train horns. Bit of non-copyrighted music, but I mean, the boat speakers is just another presence in and of itself. So this truck turned out amazing. I think we're gonna go do a little photo shoot, and then also maybe try to get some rolling shots for you guys. And yeah, other than that, this vlog is basically effectively over. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up on this video, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.